Will the economy continue to heal in 2012? A couple of our first business favorites have their fingers on the pulse of the country. Michael Iannaccone, president of MDI Investments, and Rubble Cole, professor of finance at DePaul University, join us on set this morning. Always great to have you gentlemen on the show.
Thank you.
Let's start by talking about politics and money, both here as well as Europe. There's been a number of problems that were happening in the last year in 2011, but moving on to 2012, what do you see as far as political leadership? Let's just start with the European picture, Michael.
Everyone knows what the problems are with the European leadership, and they're not fixing them. They're not coming up with wonderful solutions. So every time they don't do something that we're expecting them to ultimately do, our stock markets have a hiccup.
But is this slow drag detrimental to the U.S. economy, Rubble?
It certainly is, and the Europeans have only two options. They're bad and worse. The bad is that the ECB prints trillions of dollars to soak up all the sovereign debt of the southern European countries. The worst option is that southern European countries withdraw from the euro. So either we're looking at massive inflation or massive recession in Europe, and both of those bode very poorly for the U.S. in 2012.
Way to be an optimist. It's the end of the year, and you've got us in a cave and dying. I like that.
I just call it the way I see it.
How can we point fingers when here our own Congress had so many difficulties in 2011?
Mr. Boehner said that you shouldn't watch two things being made in this country, and that's sausage and laws. And Congress always has a problem, and we just have constant coverage of Congress, and we have constant coverage of what's going on in Europe, and we get scared at everything that they say. Of course they're going to argue.
Will Congress be able to move forward in 2012?
I think Winston Churchill famously said, you can always trust Americans to do the right thing after they've exhausted every other possibility. And I think you're going to see political gridlock through November. We're going to have a referendum on the economy in November, and then we're going to either have the Democrats be reelected, return to power, in case I think we're going to have massive inflation, or we're going to have the Republicans take over, and we're going to have a massive recession.
Let's move forward to home improvement. What will happen with the housing sector? What do you suspect is out there? There were some decent numbers that came in toward the end of the year in 2011, especially with construction.
I think that housing is beginning to pick up. There is this, I know my compatriot here is going to say that foreclosures are going to depress markets, and they will in certain circumstances, but the economy is beginning to grow. I think it's going to grow at probably a 2.5% to 3.5% rate, and that's going to be uplifting for certain markets around the country.
No, the housing market is not getting better. The rise in construction was for multifamily houses because so many people are getting kicked out by foreclosure. We're looking at another 4 to 6 million foreclosures in the next 3 or 4 years. The housing market is not going to turn positive in 2012. Look for housing prices to drop another 5 to 10% during 2012, 2013. We won't see the end of the tunnel until 2016 or 2017 at the earliest for the housing market.
I disagree. I think you're going to see the turn at the end of 2012, beginning of 13.
Things are just so bad in the housing market that even a small tick upward, everybody says things are going to get better, but it's going to take a long time to heal for what we've been through.
Do you see any hope at all for corporations, though, Rubble? In 2011, by mid-year, corporations were holding $850 billion in cash.
Corporate America has done good. This has been a great recovery for Wall Street and a terrible recovery for Main Street. Main Street's still in recession. Wall Street's had a great run, and that's why you see the Occupy Wall Street was so prominent in 2011. The 99% are still suffering. The 1% are partying.
You know, I hate this dichotomy of Wall Street and Main Street. You know, there's other companies, there's smaller companies that are not on Wall Street, that don't trade on Wall Street, that are doing healthy, that are building up cash. There's regional banks that are building up cash, and they have high liquidity, and they're going to have to start lending that cash in order to maintain their profitability or grow.
What grade would you give the economy in 2012, Michael?
I would say we're a C+ moving forward, up to a B.
It's either going to be a C or a D.
Thank you for your time. Michael Iannaccone is president of MDI Investments, and Rubble Cole, professor of finance at DePaul University. Thank you for your time.